things that have come up in the tech space as of late, and some thoughts about um, what's going on. And as far as today, or recently, iOS 18.2 came out, and as part of that is this thing called Playground. And within Playground, you can make animated characters of people. You put their image in there and you make animated characters. You can make ones of yourself, other people. I've made ones of my family, some friends, some fellow content creators in the tech space, and posted them on X. And somebody said something about it being inappropriate, and I'd like to address that. Well, it would be inappropriate if I were to post that without permission or knowing that I am creating offense to those parties involved, or casting hatred, or creating a toxic environment, or posting them as though they're agreeing with some sort of business practice, political, religious, whatever. But we all do fun things, and we don't think anything lightly of it. And matter of fact, a couple of people that brought up comments, I checked their own pages and they post memes all the time. Memes of politicians, celebrities, movie characters, and I doubt that they got those people's permission, and I doubt that the people that created those got permission and asked how those people felt about having their likeness used. And so when it comes down to it, when you post something in public, you have to consider that you are now allowing public access. You're becoming a public figure, and with that comes people being able to use that image. Just like if you're walking down the street and you're out in public and somebody takes your photo and you want to prevent them from using it, they can't. You can't. First Amendment, freedom of press, freedom of speech. You're out on a beach, you're there with your family, somebody takes a picture, you can't prevent them from using it. Even if the person's underage, they can sell it as long as they're not misrepresenting you. It's your shadow, it's your likeness, as long as they're not using it to be a proponent of some sort of political gain. So when we think about what we post online, we need to consider what other people can use it for. But this does bring to mind, and I don't want to bring light of AI and how it can be used, because it can be misused. Deep fakes and that of likeness. You have people who will go out there and they'll use somebody's image and they'll make it seem as though the person's talking. There was an app that did that for a while. There was an app where you could put an animal's face on yours. There was an app where you could put like your mouth on somebody else's face. You could talk and it would take your lips and put it in there. And we all have fun with this, but we have to consider the catastrophic use, the illegal use, the inappropriate use. And whether it's illegal, it could be unethical. And so when we post on social media and when we're using these tools, we have to consider the idea of, are you offending somebody? Are you having fun? Even if you're having fun, are the people that you're using their likeness going to appreciate that? It says, oh, in Korea there's a whole AI controversy with public people abusing it and making inappropriate content with it. Yeah, there's lewd and lascivious material that's been made with celebrities' faces posted on inappropriate websites for other people to appreciate out there. And that's what I'm talking about. Malicious intent, or being a proponent of something that that person doesn't believe in and misusing it. But then you have to consider how many politicians' likeness are used where they're claiming that the politician supports something without proof. Now, politicians are not protected in the same manner that we are. So just protect yourself. Just be careful what you post out there. I stray away from posting pictures of my kids and my son. And when I think about it, I don't want any sort of social engineering being used against him when as he gets older. I want him to be able to consent to anything that's posted. So I did a review of the Pixel 6 and I had him talk in it, but I blurred him out. So yeah, there's his voice, but I altered it a little bit and I blurred him out, and it was cute and it was funny what he said. I've posted photos in private groups knowing that those are people that are not going to just share it. I've sent family photos to friends. Now, we have to think about who you trust. And that brings down to just the idea of, if you think about, every photo you take is put in the cloud. And so whether Apple or Google or Samsung or Microsoft or any of these companies are scanning those images, they may be doing it for protective purposes, to make sure that nothing inappropriate is being posted on their service, and in order to prevent, because with knowledge of illegal imagery posted on their servers, they can be held liable. And so I get that. But also it makes me concerned because we already know that AI exists as, for instance, like personal voice, where you can upload 15 minutes of yourself talking and you're using your iPhone and it takes it and now you can type it out and have it speak like your voice. But what's to prevent a company from doing that? Nothing really. And that's the scary part. And we're seeing legislature being put out there, but then they'll put it in with another bill where they know that it'll get squashed. We saw things like with Scarlett Johansson, where somebody basically, they wanted to use her voice, and because they couldn't, they hired a voice actress to mimic her voice, to learn her voice, full and well knowing that people would just assume it's her. And now it's not her, so she can't really claim it. But if somebody were out there and they're an impressionist and they're able to mimic my voice, and then they go out and they say something, and people are like, "Is that Michael Pepper? He's pro this and against this." That's where it becomes problematic, because we each have our own unique voices. There's connotations, there's expressions, there's emotions within our voice, within our face. Now, that brought up about a question the other day about, if somebody can't see somebody, can they understand the emotion? And it makes me wonder, when we were talking about artificial intelligence and we're talking about synthetically made or computer made voices, are they going to be human like? And are they going to be able to express emotion in the same way that a human would? And I think that partially, but without facial expression, it's down to connotation. And if you know what you're doing, you can fake connotation and you can sound like this and be excited. Or you can sound like this and be kind of sad sounding. Or you can be right in the middle and you can talk like this and sound very monotone. So, voice is a very personal thing. Our image is a very personal thing. And when it comes down to it, just understand the environment you're in, understand the community you're in. I mean, I have people in the chat. There's Barry, there's Taylor, there's Tana, and Savage, and I see Keith and I see Amelia. Welcome, new people. Of course, if you're new, I see Latrell, do your thing. Miles is in here, and hit the subscribe button if you would, and of course, like this stream. So, I live within a community of people, and we all kind of make funny memes of each other, and seen people post people's faces on other characters, and we've done all these things, and we joke about it. And then we see an animated thing come out, like in Apple Playground, and we see people using it and having fun, and then people kind of come in and want to say, well, you shouldn't just be posting these of people, just be grab. Okay, well, I'm using their public images, and it's people that are within my own community, and people that I have interviewed, people that I've talked to, people that I like am in WhatsApp chats with, or Twitter DMs, people that I'm not doing it as a harmful thing, um, people that posted their own and said it didn't look like them. So I took their image and I was like, here, this is what it came up with. I think it looks a lot like you. It's all about education and not about deception, not about creating a toxic environment. I think that we should appreciate technology and that we should seek to have fun with it and bring joy back into it. We talk about how our smartphones are getting boring and they're all the same, and oh, every iPad, I have an iPad Pro here, I have an iPad Air in the other room. They're both 13 inches from the front, they look the same. When you launch stuff, most of the stuff you do, it's going to look the same, with the exception of if it's LCD versus OLED versus mini LED. And if people are saying it's boring, then maybe they're watching the wrong people. I have a mouse here from Logitech. And I could just talk about this mouse, and I could talk about, oh, it's got USB-C, and one of the benefits, you could plug it in and use it while it's charging. I've only had to charge it like 3 times since I've gotten it years ago. I have their matching keyboard, and I could just leave it at that. Or I could show their software and talk about Logitech's Logi Options Plus and how you can customize buttons on there and create shortcuts, and how you can even with their you can have 3 different devices that's programmed to, and in there you can see, and it will tell you, so you can remember, like if you're using on a PC or Mac, you go into the software and it'll tell you like slot 1 was for Michael's desktop PC, slot 2 is for iPad, slot 3 is for another iPad, or whatever it's for, and you can see that. But more fun than that is, we all know how there's like Apple's universal control, where you can use the keyboard and mouse between like a Mac and an iPad, or a Mac and multiple iPads, or multiple Macs. And Samsung has their multi-control, where you can use a keyboard and mouse between their devices. What's cool with this is, with their software, you can do that too. So if you have let's say you have a Windows PC set up, and you have a monitor for that, and you have a Mac set up, and you have a monitor for that, you can move the mouse between them. Or multiple PCs, and you don't have to switch the setting, it just goes over. And there's other software out there that's like that, but a lot of times that introduces lag, or it's some company we've never heard of, and then they're using network information, IP information. If you choose to use a VPN, it can make things complicated, where with this, it's doing kind of a direct connection, and you've signed into your account, and Logitech has been around for years. We all use them, we know them. They have keyboard, mouse, they have the Logitech Combo Touch case for iPads, the Logitech Crayon, which is kind of like a cheap version of an Apple Pencil, their webcams, gaming headsets, controllers, all sorts of things. They've been around for a long time, and it's all about how we trust these companies. And I know I express this over and over again. It's about trusting each other, and it's about trusting the technology, but why not seek to have fun in what we're doing? Hi, Eric. Rather than disparage. Like, promoting the joy of using our technology again, showing how, like, I got this matte finish screen protector on my iPad Pro here from Mothka, and I put one on my iPad Air, and I had a different brand one to go on the iPad Pro, and that other brand one just like wasn't as good as far as the anti-reflectivity, and it didn't come with a frame to align, and when I tried to use it with the frame from the Mothka one, the shape of it's different, and the size of it as far as how far it goes out is different, so it didn't work. So I just put the Mothka one on the iPad Pro, and turns out even though the cutouts are a little bit different size, it doesn't block the cameras. It doesn't interfere with Face ID or the front-facing cameras for um, FaceTime or Zoom or whatever video chat service you're going to use. And so for me, this is cool. Like you can see the light reflecting off there off from my lights, but it's soft. And so like rather than somebody having to buy an iPad Pro and spend like $2,000 on it because you got to get a 1 terabyte iPad Pro or 2 terabyte model, plus you got to pay $100 on top of that to get the coding, you can throw a pair of, for $25, you get 2 of these screen protectors and you can put it on there and you can get a similar experience. You scratch it or you break it or whatever, you peel it off and you put another one on. Each package comes with 2 of them. Like, save money. Be able to have that benefit no matter which iPad you have. They make screen protectors for other tablets. You can buy them for Samsung tablets. You can get them for Google tablets. You can get them for all sorts of things. There's multiple brands out there. There's multiple, people doing this. Hi, Ace. I posted, speaking of, I posted a picture of Ace Lucero. I took his profile picture. And you see he's wearing a hat and sunglasses, and he's got his arms crossed like this, and it doesn't really show because his eyes are covered. You don't see that. But it was spot on. The version that it made of him animated. Like, I've seen him without his sunglasses, without his hat. We've talked and we've, interacted on Twitter, and we've interacted a little bit in some live chats and stuff. And he loved it. And so for people to come out there and be like, I wouldn't do that, or that's creepy, cool, have your opinion, but like, don't shit in the kiddie pool. Like, pardon my language, but like, if your kids are playing in the pool, let's say you're having a birthday party, and you're having fun with all of them, and you have, an 8-year-old kid, and they're there with all their friends, and they're playing in the pool, and they're having a good time, and they're behaving, they're not picking on anybody, they're eating, enough, they're eating well, they're not trying to stuff their face full of cake, they're not doing things inappropriately, and you raise them that way so that when they're teenagers, they want to still hang out with those same people, and they still want to come to one of their friends' house where they know it's safe. And instead of drinking and doing drugs and getting in trouble later, creating a safe space. So, as a community, we create safe spaces and we have fun with each other. And every once in a while, somebody just wants to shit in the kiddie pool. I don't like to swear. I like to keep, my channel clean, but really, for God's sake, like, what is it about people having to be downers? What is it about people having to be like antagonistic? What is it about people having to hate when everybody else is like, "Oh, this is so cool. Let's have fun with it." And what's crazy is it was a comment on a picture that I created. Let me pull this up. I created a picture, multiple of them, in fact, of my family. I put this picture together. Let's see if I can find it here, of my family. And let me go to albums here. Anyways, I created these pictures of my son, me, and here's one of the likeness of my wife. I used a different one, but I put them together. And I said, here's, a matter of fact, I can pull it up on Twitter or on X because, I posted this photo. And I said, welcome to the AI-generated Pepper family. Apple's Playground app is fun. This picture right here. It's my wife. Looks like her when she was a little bit younger. Me, maybe looks like me when I was younger, and my son, it sort of looks like him. And I get all these wonderful comments. I get, wonderful comments, and then I get somebody, saying like you shouldn't be posting pictures of people like using their photos and posting them on here. They could have posted that on, oh, any of the other like dozen versions that were of other people that I created, but they posted it on one of my family. And I'll tell you, if you come after my family, it's wrong. And, whether it's my blood family or my tech family, we're all supposed to support each other, not hate on each other. And that's what I don't get with this. It's just so upsetting because it's like, or you know what, you can come to me in private and say, hey, this is how I feel about it. But literally nobody that I put these up with, none of them, said, hey, I'm offended, will you take it down? One of our fellow people in the tech space, Jacqueline, nothing but tech. Let me find, or Nikias Molina. That. And he literally responded with the little laughing face, crying faces. Jacqueline Dallas, nothing but tech. Her response was, gosh, this is wild, haha. I've interviewed her. I've sat down with different people. I was supposed to interview Nikias. Things happened. I've sat down with these people, and it's funny to me because, like I said, the hypocrisy amongst it too is funny because the same people that then wanted to say it's creepy or make negative comments are the same people that are posting pictures, posting memes of celebrities or things like that. But it's like celebrities are different people. It's like, oh, we don't need to get their permission because they're celebrities or because of their status or something, it's okay to mock. How about, you're getting together with a group of people and fellow content creators and you take photos? Did you get waivers to use those? Because even though you're getting together, a lot of times these are at restaurants, which technically, even even if you have their permission, even if people know no cameras are out in a private space, and I don't know how, I mean, I'm assuming the laws are the same in other countries and a lot of times even worse, but in the United States, if you're in my house, if you're in somebody else's house, if you're at a restaurant, if you're in a mall, if you're inside a store, even though those seem like public, those are private, and you actually have to have permission from the owner to take photos. Even if it's not of their product, even if it's not of their environment, if it's of other people, because you're within their space. They own that. It's no longer public anymore. And so what's funny to me is I see people like laughing and having fun doing all this, but like let's be critical of each other and let's treat each other equal and let's treat each other fair and let's get rid of the BS in the tech space and just have a good laugh, a smile, have some fun again. And like Ace mentioned the one of technically T. Like it's tea time for technically T. I don't know if he golfs, but his name is technically T. It looks like him actually. If he's been on live stream with his son, and it looks a lot like him. There's one of Viper. Like, what's funny is it did this angle, and I did not put a picture of him doing like that selfie angle, but that's the one that like. That's the angle it created because it's having fun. It's seeing him with sunglasses. I put in like the photo of Viper and said drinking coffee, and it gave him a hat, sunglasses, and had him holding coffee. It's fun like that. Eric, I would need a better picture of you. The problem is if it's too far back, even if I crop in on it, I don't know if I'll be able to get it. You know what? We're gonna do this live real quick here. Um, let's see. I'm gonna pull up. The tech preacher? Yeah, because you're covering your face with your phones in the profile picture, so I need a photo. You know what? I bet you I can do it. I bet you I could do it with a, real quick here. I bet you I can do it this way. So I'm gonna need to go to the tech preacher. I bet you I can grab, um, from a live stream. I bet you I can grab this screenshot. So went to a live stream, scrubbed forward to you, grabbed a screenshot. I'm gonna save it, and we're gonna do this live here. So I go into the Playground app, and I'm gonna select Photos, choose Photo, and then I gotta go to All, and then I'm gonna select this, grab the screenshot of Eric here. And you can see it grabbed his face. Like, it's gonna create a few. It likes to make people smile a lot. Like, some of this is really funny. Like, right here. Let's see here. So, recording a podcast. I'm gonna add that prompt with it, and we're gonna see what it does here. So now it changed the color of it, and it's got like, look at that. It's weird what it does with headphones a little bit, but like, so let's say I do this and I go save image. I'm gonna go down here, go back to this, bring it up, go in here. I can save that image. And now check this out. I can go to X, and I can go into into my messages. I can go to Tech Preacher, go in here, I'm gonna pull it up. I'm gonna go photos, and I just sent Eric that picture, this one, where he's on a podcast. Like, would that take me 15 seconds maybe? I had a couple other people ask me. I don't have permission to show it. I'm sure they'll do their own, or they'll post it. I had other people ask me. Delvan, asked me to create one of him, and it didn't have his dreadlocks because though it doesn't want to, so I said with dreadlocks, and so I added dreadlocks, and I gave him a hat, and it looks like him. And Septin says those images look demonic. They look childlike. They're cartoon. It's literally animated. Like, they call it, the other option you can do, let me pull up. So the other thing you can do within, it's animated style, but you can do illustration. I don't like this one as much, but let's go and see what Eric would look like illustrated. So here's an illustrated version. Like, illustrated versions. It gets the wrinkles, it gets everything. This kind of reminds me of King of the Hill, like the way that they did the coloring, and then like the outlines and stuff. Um, and I could go say with a spaceship, because we all know that Eric is a Trek fan. So what if we have one of him here, right there, with spaceship in the background. Um, if you try to specify certain like brands, like you try to say a BMW car or a Camaro or something, it won't do that because clearly they don't have the rights for trademark for copyright. Just like if I were to put in like something about Star Trek, I won't do it. I tried to say like something about a Cubs hat, or I was gonna make one of our buddy Tech for Your Needs, and I tried to say with like Boston Celtics hat or Boston Red Sox or whatever, and it won't do that because that's copyrighted material, so it's not gonna create that. Um, it's fun. And that's the simple fun part of it. But then you have things like responding to emails, or I get these long emails sometimes, and being able to select the text and say summarize, and it pops up like a summary for me. You have a website, and let's say you're looking up and you want to learn about a specific topic. You can go into, you can go in to some of the like you can go in Safari, look it up, hit summarize, go into reader mode, hit summarize. It will do that. Septon says 13 Pro won't get it. It's interesting because you might get some of the stuff. I'm not sure what features will be specific to the new devices. I don't know if like the new email stuff and some of that will be available on older devices. But I'll be interested in seeing if they do trickle some of that down later. Some of the things we have to remember is right now. So somebody was mentioning the other day about how Apple only gives you 5 gigs of iCloud available for free. Well, as of 2018, there was like 850 million iCloud accounts. So that's 4.25 exabytes of data. When I looked it up, that's about $50 million in storage. Plus, they have to have redundancy. Plus, they have to have, that's just in like storage costs. Plus, they have to have the machines that they're in. Plus, they have to have the buildings, then powering it. That's just for free accounts. Now, about 80% of their accounts at the time are free. Now, they're probably well over 1 billion on there. And most of the people that are buying additional storage, there's a good chunk of those that are using 2 terabyte and family sharing it. So then there's that. And then there's costs of everything else that they're doing for essentially free. Like if I have since I have the 2 terabyte plan, all my Eufy cameras, all the HomeKit stuff, like the secured cameras, any HomeKit supported ones, you get backup for 30 days for like down to like every second or whatever without it using your storage. And so they're backing all that up. They're, of course, any services you pay for, all the Apple Music, Apple TV shows, all that stuff. And so when you buy a device, if you use free services, then everybody else kind of has to pay for that. And so that's, it's more than just the cost of the initial cost of the device. It's supporting it at stores. It's iMessage support. For business, you can message in or calling in. It's the after support. And yeah, they're $1 trillion company. But what's interesting to me is like, we think the AI is a fad, but realistically, AI has been around for about over 20 years. I talked about it. In the early days of router technology, it actually wasn't until 802.11b, but there was AI that was used for channel switching, so that would intelligently determine which channel on your router or your devices would go to. A lot of some of this stuff, an exabyte is 1 million gigs. It's 1 billion bytes. It's 1 million gigabytes. Um, or no, yeah, it's like 1 million terabytes in data. Um, so there's some amazing stuff that's been going on since Xerox days, and IBM has had stuff just like Savage Scientist talks about Watson. I remember that being used on Jeopardy, but that stuff has been around literally for years and years and years. Auto dialers that have been around like in the 80s were using versions of artificial intelligence to essentially, when they call, if nobody picks up or they get a generic voice, like a generic recording at the other end, they know not to call back. And video games using AI and stuff like that. It's just more forward now. If we think about like visual intelligence, which is one of the things that's come with the camera control button, and people are like, "Oh, isn't that just Google Lens plus ChatGPT?" Sort of, but it's also like on-device stuff. But before Google Lens was out, Apple was doing optical character recognition for recognizing faces. So I remember, gosh, my brother's oldest was like a newborn. So this has to be, we're looking at like 15, 16 years ago, iTunes. And we had pictures of her when she was born. And my parents put them on their computer. My sister-in-law was born in Seoul, South Korea, and it was adopted. And what's interesting is that it recognized their little girl as like a little baby being connected in with my parents and with my brother and with obviously with my sister-in-law, but it recognized and kind of grouped those together. And that is now moved forward. And if you think about it, a lot of what's out there, I talk about this all the time. QuickShare is just Android Beam. The tapping your iPhones together for like sharing contact stuff has kind of been around, but it's now more in the forefront. It's more obvious stuff that's been around with, um, that's been around for years. Scanners being able to convert texts from documents, the whole where when you hold up the camera and it recognizes phone numbers or email addresses or physical addresses and can add them to a contact. That stuff you've been able to do with a photo already for a while. Now it's just like hold up the camera instead of having to save a photo. So you know how annoying it is and how people are talking about, oh, it's so great that Google Photos and Apple Photos has it where you can filter down things out of your roll or going in there and deleting screenshots. Well, imagine you get together for an event and there's business cards. So instead of taking photos of every single business card as people hand them to you, you just take out the iPhone. Oh, add to contact. Add to contact. And it does. It's going to add in the name. It's going to add address, whatever information is on there. You have a menu and you want to translate it. A dog and you think, oh, this might be the missing dog, and they talked about what breed it is, and you go, oh, is it? Yep, that's the right breed. I can imagine it being used for other, for extensions of that down the road where you just have your information on your phone. And the nice part is instead of having to send things over AirDrop or QuickShare or whatever, somebody just holds out their phone with their camera and it's on the front of your phone, and oh, they now have that information to save. So you're on a plane and you're sitting next to somebody who you might not be able to use AirDrop because maybe your Wi-Fi and Bluetooth has to be off. But a lot of those things that are on device can be used. And so what's amazing to me is like the underappreciation of this technology, and it's being promoted more. And I think it's more about marketing than about technology becoming new, because a lot of what we have is not new technology. It's just being put at the forefront. And sometimes that becomes overwhelming. And that's one of the things that I wish and I hope that Apple doesn't do. And one of the things that I appreciate while certain things are maybe more complex with an iPhone, it's not just as like, oh, it's as easy to use anymore. For the most part, it is. And I don't like how now all your apps are like you go into settings and you got to go all the way to the bottom and hit apps, and like even Apple apps are in there. Your phone and your iMessage and messages and everything are in there instead of where they used to be on their own. But on the Android side, I see sometimes things being made more convoluted, or like not realizing they're there unless you go into edit settings and then add the quick toggle or the quick setting access to that, and then you got to rearrange them, and sometimes you try to drag it back to the first page and it doesn't want to go there until you move something out of the first page to the second page. Then if you have a bunch of pages, you got to move something from like the last page over and then move, and not all manufacturers make it so easy, and it just becomes super complicated. And we're using more and more information on the day, and we're wanting access to more and more information. But the problem is how convoluted it is. And so for the day-to-day use, what I appreciate with like Apple Intelligence or Gemini and some of this stuff is how you can ask it for a recipe for something. And maybe Apple's built-in intelligence won't answer you, but you can allow access to ChatGPT, and third-party companies will come and play, and people are mocking Apple and being like, oh, they're just using ChatGPT. Well, where do you think Google gets their information? Google's a search engine. They don't provide information. They search for it too. Every little bit of information you get with Google Assistant when you do a search, or Google Gemini, Google shouldn't get benefit for that. They're getting that from other companies. So what's interesting to me is, so Apple's doing that too. Apple's using Google because Google has a search engine. When you search in Safari, when you pull up Safari and you just type in something, and you're not typing in a URL to go to a website, you're just typing in to search for something, the default is Google search. Cool. But now ChatGPT is used for writing things for you. But what's interesting is writing tools on Apple Intelligence will do a lot of that, and then you can allow ChatGPT to do more, but like it will make things sound more personal or more professional or more friendly. Or now there's an option in there where you can expound upon it. So you can say, make this sound personal and friendly, or you can request that it add certain details in there. You can have it clean things up. You can create bullet points. You can summarize something. So you can type something out lengthy, and then at the end, you could create a summary of it and say, this is kind of the summary. And so for people that read through it and want to know the kind of summarized conclusion at the bottom, that's where they could read it, or they want the bullet points, or you typed out meeting notes, or with like dictation stuff now, you set down the phone and it dictates things out. Then you go in and you select that all and you hit summarize, and it creates bullet points from everything that everybody brought up. I had a company email me today wanting me to review this necklace, and I don't feel comfortable doing it because I'm not a huge proponent of somebody wearing something that's recording conversations at all time, especially given the fact that in some states that's illegal. You have two-party states, even in public, where if conversations are being recorded, they have to be notified if it's not for security. Like security cameras can exist, but recording meetings, recording phone calls. So it's this necklace, and it doesn't really look like anything, and it's just hanging there. And it's like, it's supposed to be that it just records your part and just your conversation. And so like you're talking with family members, or you're at meetings, or you're a doctor. And like the problem I have with doctors is HIPAA protection. So what if somebody just snags that from somebody, and now they have every doctor's appointment that that doctor had, because it can do up to 10 hours. It can store up to 30, I think it was 30 hours on a charge, and you get up to 10 hours for free, and you can pay like an additional amount, like 10 or 15, 14. I think it was 10 or $14 a month. There's two different tiers to have it be unlimited. So somebody pays $14 a month, and now everything they do throughout the day is transcribed. An attorney wants to use it for benefit, but it's all they have to do is have the app, but I didn't see anything about like, is it protected and secured by an account? Um, so while it's cool, I don't want to agree to use this stuff and then be like, well, I can't really agree with it because, and I don't know this company, and they claim, oh, Microsoft has used these for events, and Nvidia and like all these other companies use our technology, but it still comes down to the scary thought of that your information is just constantly recorded and then transcribed versus you're in a meeting and somebody says, I'm going to use my phone to transcribe this. Is that okay with everybody? And everybody grants permission. So, Tech for Your Needs says, question, do you think AI is going to make society more lazy? Technology has made people more lazy in general. It's benefited a lot of people. It's provided access to greater numbers of people where maybe they live in an area where a library isn't close by, or they have some sort of anxiety issue, so going out in public is difficult. So you have greater access to information, but also you have greater access to information that isn't accurate, and how people will misuse that or become hypochondriacs because they think they have everything, or they look up symptoms and now they think they're dying of cancer, or instead of writing a paper, instead of asking for help, they use software to write it for them. And now teachers are having to battle against that, where you're having to have AI to battle AI and determine if things are authentic. You're having photos that are being created and pixels that are being created out of nothing. I think it's a destruction of creativity, and it's a destruction of intelligence. It should be used as a tool, as an extension, not a replacement. Technology comes from the Latin, and it literally is translated to a tool. And a tool like a hammer or a shovel, a screwdriver. But people want the whole tool belt, but they don't want to learn how to use it. They want to become a carpenter or build a house, but they don't want to take the classes. And with that, you have somebody who's running their own electricity and electrocutes themselves, and then who do they sue? With these tools, there's nobody that's responsible for the misuse of this information. Do we see politicians requesting? Do we see oversight? No, because a lot of it's about less government and less invasion in our space, but we're perfectly okay with allowing technology to invade. But without an understanding of the decay that causes, without the understanding of, instead of having to learn stuff, oh, I can just pull out my phone and look it up. But what happens in a society where technology isn't available, and now you have kids who are freaking out because the internet is down, or I remember when my son was little, and it was like we went from home being on Wi-Fi, and his tablet wouldn't work, and except for it would play back videos that were downloaded. And he's wondering why, or games now are more online. So AI and technology is making people more connection dependent too. And the problem with that is connection stability is still lacking. Carriers are not being made to provide greater access. Internet service providers have monopolies, and those who have money will have greater access to accurate information. Those who don't will rely on the limited access that they have. The other problem with that is because of the reliance and the trust on it, and the lack of really wanting to know and just taking it for face value, is and that companies are not held to a standard for marketing that part of it, is that people won't then use it to do greater research. It's like when Wikipedia first came out. I remember I was in college, and the fact that my professors would have to say, like, if you're doing research and Wikipedia comes up, you need to cite other sources, valid sources, legitimate sources, professional sources. MLA, was it the law version, like like law classes, um, different formats require that you cite legitimate sources where they've done research. If you're a scientist, you can't just say this is my result. You have to show, you have to have a thesis, you have to have an unbiased test where only one thing differentiates and the regular are the same, the others are the same, the rest are the same. That's what I was looking for. and you have to validate your conclusion. That's why you have things that are still theories, not fact. And for me, the fact that we have this idea that there's expressed fact when most of these results are a thesis, that's the issue. You know, not every, as Tech for Your Needs said, you know, and it depends on where you are, not every area has good infrastructure. And that's my point. So technology has benefited a lot of us, but it's also made a greater distinction between the like haves and have-nots. If you don't have money, you don't get to survive because you don't get great access to the information, and people get to sound smart who aren't. You have people who think they're intelligent because they look up the results. I ask a question and maybe you're sitting there and you have your phone answer it, but you don't really learn. And that information just is regurgitated out, but it's not withheld. You're not a sponge, you're a pipe. The information goes in one end and out the other. You're not holding on to the access. You're not, you know, a piece of paper with adhesive that's holding onto it. You're not a sticky trap like that holds ants. You're just a tube, a tunnel. And for me, there's no greater disparage than the idea of, and I'm fighting this right now, I homeschool my son, with the idea of like, I can't just teach him something once and expect him to remember it. Now, knowledge is, at this point, for a lot of people, it's just a way of taking what others have discovered and storing it in your brain. But greater knowledge is questioning that and creating your own studies and wanting to learn more. And so we have these tools that can provide base points. But do we use that as a jumping off point? Do we use that to further our own intellect, or do we use that as the end all and be all? And do we say, well, if I don't remember it later, I'll just look it up again? But the real challenge, which I think schools should do, is I feel like schools should set it up where students need to write papers, and what they what they're allowed to do is they're allowed to research stuff, and then they come into class and they show the research to the teacher. The teacher is going to go over that. They're going to see what's valid, or maybe the teacher provides the research. They say, here's topic, here's the information you have. Each of you are going to write a paper. Pencil and paper, or pen and paper. Pencil better, so you can erase stuff because we all make mistakes. I don't believe you should have to write stuff in pen and then start all over just because you mess up in a word on a full page. But that would create a true value in interaction, a true value in understanding. It would create a group process, and I don't believe that groups working together is also a good thing, because whoever has the most influence in the group makes the decisions, and then everybody else can survive or fail on them. You have the nerd who just wants to get along with his friends, so he writes the paper for him. Or you have me, who I hated doing group assignments, so quite often I would request to just do them on my own, not that I knew better, but that I didn't want to have it be that other people succeed because they're lazy and rely on me. And that's the thing. AI is the nerd that everybody relies on, but at the same time, if that person who seems to be intelligent isn't really intelligent, everybody else fails because the stress on one person. You know, there's different levels of intelligence. You have somebody who maybe they don't understand math and science, but they're a great artist. I didn't really care for science in general terms until I started looking into studying the brain and human behavior, and like psychology and sociology classes I failed until later, when I started to understand, when I was researching things on my own, when I was looking into myself. I feel like in order for education to become improved, there needs to be a common understanding in which people improve themselves. It's a relationship, it's a symbiosis, it's a balance. And too much that happens now is people just look up the information, they get the quick answer, but they don't really understand how the answer was, like the conclusion. They get the conclusion without the parts. It's one of the things I don't like about the math notes, where you can write out notes and write an equal sign and it will give you the answer. It's great for bills, but when you have complex equations and it just gives the answer, students aren't going to be able to just give the answer. Now, the great part about that is they can use it to determine maybe if their answer is correct. But if it's not, then they're not going to know what part they managed to mess up in. They're not going to know how to improve. They're not going to see, like, oh, this is how it should have been done, and then on the next one they can figure it out. There's software out there, I've seen it, where you pull up a test. And basically what it's done is scan the web, because most of these tests are created from, out of books, or there's information out there or whatever. And it pops the answer for you. You can select a question on the screen and it'll do it. Sometimes it will auto select, and then it will tell you, oh, the answer is A or B or whatever, and you just click it. It will even do equations where there's not multiple parts. It will take the question and it will spit out the answer. The problem is nobody's learning anything. Everybody's just regurgitating. And we need less regurgitation and more learning. Inquisitive minds really create a furtherance of humanity instead of keeping us where we are. I mean, we can be stuck at a point in which any expansion or understanding of what's been studied does not extend. Imagine if scientists were not continuing research on cure for cancer, or ways to prevent Alzheimer's, or cures for that, or trying to figure out, like, pancreatic cancer. If you get that, and you're in stage 4, you're dying. Great friend of the family, campgrounds that we grew up going to, he passed away a couple months ago, and he had pancreatic cancer. By the time he knew, it was stage 4 and he died. I had a uncle of my dad's. He's had several family members who have died from pancreatic cancer. I had an uncle of my dad's. They were fortunate enough, found it early on due to some early on testing, and due to the fact that there were other family members that had it, and he had some symptoms, and he managed to make his way through it. He did die of cancer, a different form, later on. But with fewer and fewer places talking about critical thinking, talking about furtherance of intelligence, talking about not just being able to, like, spit out what's already out there, not really deeply thinking about what comes up and questioning it and creating your own thought and being artistic. I feel art is more than just, like, taking a pencil and sketching something out, or painting it, or photography. It's poetry. There's art in science. Some art is science. Photography is both an art and a science. And the way that we look at things in life is an art. We take words, and words have a purpose, and words have definition. They're defined, which means this is what this word means. It's not up to some sort of perception. It's not up to some sort of analyzing it. This is what this word means. We have dictionaries. We have a thesaurus. So you have synonyms for things. You have words that are the opposite of each other, antonyms. You have words that sound the same. You have homophones and homonyms, and you have all sorts of things out there. And what's beautiful to me about humanity is the idea that some people look to express themselves through art, and some people look to express their knowledge of science and math, which to me is an art. You're creating an image and you're expressing this beautiful thought through words. And how you do that through defined terms, and there's always new words coming out. But once you change language, you destroy the expression and then in the defined terms. Oxygen will be oxygen, hydrogen will be hydrogen, and every element on the periodic table will be as it is. They're discovering new ones. They're discovering that some new things about you have subatomic particles, and you're going in and you're expanding out, and you're going to the macro aspect of the world, and you're going down into the micro area of the world. And if you think about it, like, I wish that people would just be more conscious of thinking and questioning what the answers are and seeking to understand what the answer is. Now, there's certain things that we won't get answers to. You can ask the meaning of life, and some people will say the meaning of life is to love each other. And some people will say the meaning of life is just to live until we die. Some people will say there is no meaning of life. You can question what is love, and some people will say it's a feeling. Some people will say it's an emotion. Some people will say it's a transactional situation. Some people will say it's a bond like no other. But when you think about it, you create a complex thought. It's a gathering pattern. It's the way that we just really seek connection with each other is by questioning things. And technology, well, it allows us to communicate. Well, it allows me to be on here in a live stream and have people in here asking questions, and people that I'll communicate with that I'll never meet in person. At the same time, it destroys a necessity to interact. I mean, I hate to think about it, but there are, I would say, hundreds of thousands of kids out there that may be interacting with people that they'll never meet. And there's a cool factor to that. People playing games with other kids around the world. There's a danger to that. But at the same time, it's how we use it as a tool to benefit society and not create a lockdown. And for me, during 2020 COVID stuff, I went to therapy after that because basically I had anxiety. I have OCD, agoraphobia. Um, I have a fear of small spaces being too confined and getting too far away. And I managed to, there's not really a cure for it, but it's how you manage the feeling from it. And so technology can create a necessity for not having to handle that stuff. It can create situations in which people are locked in, but then they die, and you die early, or you die alone, or you develop heart conditions, or you develop certain things because you don't go to your doctor, you don't go to your eye doctor, you don't go to your dentist, you don't go get your hearing tested, and then you end up deaf, blind, not able to eat. You end up in pain. Connection with humanity, with other people, is not just like, there's a purpose of survival, because no matter how strong and intelligent you are, you can't do it all. Narcissists think they can, but narcissism, ironically, does not survive without other people, because narcissism is the idea of placing oneself as superior to others. It's the idea of self-idolation, but as well as others have to idolize you. Because without that, it's like a contest of one. So those who think they can do it all can do none, and those who can think they can do none can do so much more. Would you rather be a turtle or a penguin? Both can be kind of slow. Penguin is interesting because, I mean, digging into the mind of Michael Pepper a little bit here, this might seem a little bit interesting, a little bit disturbing, but the males tend to be the ones that, the females give birth and the males protect their young ones. And in our society, it tends to be, even in a developed culture, we tend to be still stuck back in like the 1950s with the idea of the man should work and the woman stays home. and that's not right. We have like gender roles. And so for a penguin, the complexity of that discussion is that they're in a way where the man and the male and the female have such strong roles. And it's brilliant. But also I know that penguins, I don't believe they're monogamous, so I don't know that I want to be either. I believe turtles are, but turtles are interesting because they're slow. Um, but they live in their home and they can, put their shell over themselves and protect themselves, and they can do amazing things. But then they're also not protected as much as penguins are, but they're also in more areas. Penguins are limited to certain environments where there are turtles that live in multitudes of environments, from kind of desert-like environments to very wet, swampy areas. So I think I would want to be a turtle. Although I don't want to be turtle soup and I don't want my shell to be used as a drum. Turtles also are known to live for hundreds of years, where penguins don't have as long of a life. I don't know that I would want to live that long, though, because I don't know if, unless I were to have a partner as a turtle that also can live for hundreds of years and become something majestic and beautiful in nature. There are different kinds of penguins. I'm sure their average lifespan is huge, and I'm sure there are penguins that have lived for just as long as humans, some humans. But yeah, I think I would want to be a turtle. Um, but I don't know that I would want to live in my shell. I also think this is a great point because the whole discussion of like slow and steady wins the race, I think it's true. We're too quick to move, but I think those of us who understand to appreciate what we're in and to expound and build upon our knowledge are those of us who are okay with the slow build. And in the end, we are the ones who may be bettering ourselves, bettering our relationships with other people, bettering our creativity, bettering our knowledge, and we'll end up living long, healthy lives, happy and surrounded by people that are also happy. So, with that profound kind of moment, I've been on here for about 60, a little bit, almost 67 and a half minutes. I think that it's been an interesting discussion. And don't rush to judge others. Don't rush to get the quick answer. And when you do get the answer, think about it a little bit. Do your research, enjoy technology, enjoy my channel, enjoy other people's channels. If you come to this and you're watching this, and you're new, if you think it's interesting, obviously subscribe. People who are watching, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Share this. I am close. I'm like 51 hours away from the 3,000 hours to get the first monetization. Then I'll be able to do super chats and memberships and some fun things. I like doing this format of live streaming. I think it's fun. Just hopping on my phone, not having to set up some complicated system. Everybody can do it. Anybody can do it. We talk about technology. We talk about kind of delving into the idea of humanity and the idea of sociology, psychology, the idea of, beyond just that, but life. When I was thinking about live streaming again, it's tech in life. I don't just talk tech, I live it, because I do, but not in the point where like it overwhelms me, but to the point where I like to understand how it can better us and not hinder us, and how we can use it to educate each other, and how I can educate people on how they can use their technology better, and how we can just be better people, how we can love each other, how we can learn from each other, how we can create art of each other, how we can poke fun at each other, how we can laugh and have a good time. And, have these serious conversations, but also have kind of fun conversations and just chill on a Thursday night like we did tonight. I don't know if I'll be back next week. kind of do these things impromptu. I feel like it's more natural to not feel the pressure of needing to do it. Just, I'm going to be here every Thursday at 8 or whatever, and just when something's on my mind. So I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you will obviously stick around and just see as what my channel brings up. And of course, as always, my name is Michael Pepper of Michael Pepper Tech. Thanks for watching. Peace, love. See you in the next video. Peace out.